I don't know what's going on, but good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the October 15th Sandag Public Safety Committee meeting for Friday, October 15th. Can you guys believe it's already October? October 15th, 2021 Sandag Public Safety meeting. Before we get started, I'd like to ask the interpreter to walk us through how to access the interpretation for this meeting.
Thank you, Chair Sotelo Solis. As the chair indicated, we do have interpretation available. I will begin with the Spanish instructions and I will be back in a moment with the instructions for our English speakers. Muy buenas tardes y bienvenidos, bienvenidas a esta sesión del Comité de Seguridad Pública de la Asociación de Gobiernos de San Diego, SANDAG, correspondiente al viernes 15 de octubre de 2021. Se está ofreciendo interpretación simultánea para esta reunión. Para hacer uso del servicio, por favor desplácese a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen sus controles, haga clic en el icono de interpretación, parece un globo terráqueo, y seleccione Spanish o español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom en celular, tableta, etc., presione primero los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Por último, si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio o silenciar audio original. Hello once again, and as stated before, we do have interpretation available. In the event that there are any comments in Spanish, we invite all of our monolingual English speakers to use the feature. To do so, please scroll down to your Zoom screen controls. There you will find an interpretation icon. It looks like a little world, and then you can select English as your language. If you are joining through the Zoom mobile app on a cell phone, tablet, or other mobile device, first press the ellipsis, the three dots, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on Mute Original Audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Gracias and thank you, Chair.
Bueno, gracias, Carlos. We appreciate that. All right. Well, now we'd like to, again, welcome everybody. Camera started working. Great. And let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could all join me, place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Before we jump right into the meeting, I'd like to make sure that we have quorum. Ms. Sylvia, do we have quorum for today's meeting?
Yes, I can confirm that we do have a quorum for today.
All right, thank you, Ms. Clerk Sylvia. All right, I'd like to again remind everyone of our process for both member and public comments. We ask members to use the raise hand icon on the Zoom toolbar and turn their cameras on when they have a comment or a question, and I'll go ahead and call you. If you are a member of the public and would like to speak on an item, please also use the raise hand icon in the Zoom toolbar.
God.
I'm glad they feel that way, you know. We will also be able to hear you once we got that raised icon Zoom toolbar noticed. I will say, hey, you are up. And if you're calling into the meeting, please press star. Which one is it? Star, hold on 1 second. I think it's star 9, I think we said. Yep, star 9 on your phone. If you'd like to comment on an item, all comments, whether emailed or live, will be made of part of today's meeting record. So with that, let's start on item number 1. Very challenging. It's the approval of the meeting minutes. And if any member of the public would like to make a comment, please raise your hand now. And if there are any members of the Public Safety Committee that would like to make any comments, please turn your camera on or raise your hand. Seeing, so Ms. Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to address us on this item?
No, Chair, there are no comments from the public.
Outstanding. Seeing none. Now we need a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I will move, Chair. This is Campillo.
Thank you, Vice Chair Campillo. Do you hear a second?
I'll scribble second.
And that was Mr. Connolly, I think by, yes. Mr. Connolly, I got you.
Paul Connolly.
Paul Connolly, gotcha, as a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
For South County, Chair Mayor Sotelo Solis.
Sotelo Solis, aye.
For City of San Diego, Vice Chair, Councilmember Campillo.
I vote yes.
For County of San Diego, I believe they're absent today.
No,
Anyone here?
I'm here.
Oh, I apologize, Supervisor Anderson.
All right.
And what is your vote? Yes?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. For East County, Councilmember Goebel.
East County, yes.
For North County Coastal, Councilmember Blackburn.
Blackburn, aye.
For North County Inland, Councilmember Frank.
Musgrove is here.
Musgrove is here for North County Inland. Councilmember
Musgrove.
Musgrove. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Musgrove, aye.
For County Chiefs Sheriffs Association, Chief Barzo.
Varso, aye.
For County Chief Sheriffs Association, Chief Armijo.
Chief K is here for the other seat, Sylvia.
Okay, thank you. For Regional Fire Emergency Medical Services, Chief Vogt.
Vote yes.
For San Diego County District Attorney, Commander Rutzel.
The aye.
For San Diego Police Department, Assistant Chief Connolly.
Connolly, yes.
For San Diego County Sheriffs, but they are absent today. I apologize. San Diego County Sheriffs is absent today.
Sylvia, I think we still need to go back to Chuck K for seat B to vote, please.
K is aye.
Thank you. That passes with those that have voted yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ms. Sylvia. And again, this is Sylvia's second meeting here with us here at the Public Safety Committee. So we appreciate her work here today. And we now move on to item 2. So we have public comments, member communication, as well as communication from members of the public. If there are any members of the public that would like to comment, please raise your hand. And any of the members of PSC that would like to comment on any item, please do so now. Ms. Clerk, do we have any members of the public wishing to address us on public comment, non-agenda items?
No, Chair, I don't see any public members of the to comment. Sorry about that.
That's okay. That's okay. Fabulous. Seeing none, we will now move on to item 3. It is the Chief Executive Officer report. And today, I believe we have Ray Trainer who will be giving the report for Hassan.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Sotelo Solis. Hassan apologizes, but he couldn't be here this afternoon. And so he asked me to step in and to share a few of the activities that have been underway here at the organization. So I wanted to begin by first acknowledging the actions that President Biden just recently took to lift the restrictions regarding the non-essential travel for cross-border, both here at the U.S.-Mexico border crossing. And I wanted you to be aware that beginning in November, individuals that are fully vaccinated and foreign nationals will now be able to enter the U.S., providing they bring their proof of vaccination, which we think is really great news for our region. And I think many of us are aware that throughout the last 18 months, there's just been thousands of our citizens, residents, and essential workers that have continued to cross the border each and every day. And these last 19 months with the border closure has really just affected so many lives. Our economy's been impacted. Certainly jobs have unfortunately been lost. We've had a number of businesses in the region that have closed, and many of our families have been negatively affected as a consequence. So we're, I think, all quite relieved to see this recent action and hope that we continue to see more and more free movement across our border here. I wanted to bring your awareness to what's called a request for innovative concepts. So SANDAG is going to be soliciting input and proposals from members of industry, and very specifically those that are involved in transformative technologies that we think can help to revolutionize our transportation system. So we're going to be putting out this request for innovative concepts in the next couple of weeks. and anticipate having this go out in early November. And then we're expecting proposals to come in the midpoint of January. And so we're all very excited to see what members of industry have to say in terms of the next steps with regards to our ambitious 5 big moves in the future of our transportation system. One thing that just happened this morning, I'm quite excited to report, is that Sandag has now donated 100 used computers to the San Diego Futures Foundation. These computers were formerly used by Sandag staff. They reached the end of their useful life and were really no longer useful for our organization. But through the San Diego Futures Foundation, these computers will be refurbished, and they're going to be offered to individuals who have limited incomes, seniors, veterans, individuals with disabilities, foster families, and other nonprofit organizations. So we're excited to be able to see a reuse of these, and we encourage all of you, if you've got computer equipment that's reached the end of its useful life, San Diego Futures Foundation provides an opportunity to help us kind of close the gap in the digital divide in our region. Coming up in November, we're going to be talking to Sandag's Board of Directors about some amendments to our budget. And as we think about the 2021 regional plan, we've really viewed this as our opportunity as a region to think really different about how our transportation system needs to be shaped to be able to represent and satisfy the diverse needs that we have across the region. And so as a consequence, we're going to be now looking to be able to bring some alignment with our budget actions that the board has taken. And so to that end, we're going to be proposing a budget amendment in November. And following that budget amendment, we're then going to ask the board of directors to revisit our regional transportation improvement program early next year to bring further alignment to our 5-year spending plan so that it's directly responsive to the board's wishes with respect to our long-range plan. So work on this will be coming very soon to our board in November, and then we'll be taking the RTIP amendment that would follow sometime in early 2022. Another thing that happened just this week is we celebrated the groundbreaking for the I-5 North Coast Corridor high occupancy vehicle lanes, or our carpool lanes. This is the last project of this segment. This would complete the carpool lanes from Palomar Airport Road in Carlsbad up to State Route 78 there at the border of Carlsbad and Oceanside. So this is really a important part of our 2021 regional plan and our vision for a network of managed lane facilities that would help us move transit vehicles more effectively, move carpools, high occupancy vehicles throughout the region. And so we want to thank Sandag Chair Catherine Blakespear, the Director of Caltrans, Tox Amashakin, our newest California Transportation Commissioner, Clarissa Falcon, State Assembly Member Tasha Barner-Horvath, as well as Carlsbad Mayor Matt Hall for joining us in this celebration. And we're quite anxious for the team at Caltrans now to be able to complete this important last leg of the I-5 carpool lanes. And then I wanted to shift to the region's largest infrastructure project, one that I know Hassan has shared with you at the Public Safety Committee in times past, and that's an update on our Mid-Coast Light Rail project. Many of you recall that we began construction about 5 years ago in 2016, and we're excited to continue to be able to report to you that the work is progressing on time and on budget. And if any of you are familiar with mega projects, this is a pretty exceptional performance. And so we're quite thrilled about the performance thus far. And this is despite the last 19 months of the pandemic, which we can tell you has not been easy for any of our contractors, crews to be able to complete the work. But nonetheless, they've been able to keep the project moving forward. But at the same time, just recently, our project has begun to suffer some of the consequences of the global supply chain crisis. I think many of you have maybe seen images or heard stories about large shipping vessels anchored off the coast of Los Angeles and Long Beach. And while our project is a Buy America project, so we're not suffering from goods being shipped overseas, we are suffering supply chain issues from materials that are sourced here in the United States And those materials are needed very specifically to help our construction crews complete the construction of the 5 aerial stations. Those are the 5 most northern stations on the Mid-Coast Light Rail. So our team has been working very closely with the contractor once these supply chain issues became evident. And they've been doubling down to be able to try to ensure that we can maintain our on-time delivery. In fact, we've got crews right now over in the state of Wisconsin. They're overseeing the manufacturing of some concrete stairs that are used to be able to access those aerial stations. And so we're very confident with this additional effort and this focus on these last bit of material deliveries that we need to be able to open the Mid-Coast Light Rail on November 21st, which is really about 37 days away. So the clock is ticking, but we wanted to make sure that all of our policy advisory committees, all of our board members had the awareness that there is this risk that these 5 aerial stations are really close, and we're doing everything we can, and we're very confident that we're going to get the work done, but nonetheless, there is a little bit of a risk. And then the last thing, I just wanted to encourage all of you, if you've not already done so, if you could save the date for Sunday, November 21st, that is scheduled to be our grand opening of the Mid-Coast. And we want to encourage all of you, if you have time, to bring your family. We're going to have a large celebration. Details will be coming soon, but it's an exciting time for our region as we celebrate the grand opening of the Blue Line Trolley, which is going to give a 1-seat ride from the border all the way up to the University Town Center area. And so we're quite thrilled about that. So Chair Sotelo Solis, that concludes my report.
Thank you so much, Ray. Really appreciate that. Lots of really good nuggets of information. Again, can't wait till we have the huge unveiling of the Blue Line, and everyone and their sister will be there. Are there any members of the Public Safety Committee that would like to comment on the information that Ray just shared? Are there any members of the public, Ms. Sylvia, that would like to address us on this item?
No, Chair, there are none.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Ray. You're ready to roll. Happy Friday.
Thank you.
All right, we now move on to item 4, and that is the Chief's report. And I believe we have Chief Varso, who will be sharing information.
Good afternoon. So the Chiefs and Sheriff Management Committee met on October 6th. During that meeting, the committee reviewed a draft policy that will strengthen procedures and use of our automated officer notification system managed by ARGIS. The policy revisions will place greater safeguards to ensure that law enforcement is in the system in a manner consistent with local laws and agency procedures, as well as enhancing some reporting requirements in the event that a law enforcement officer were to violate the policy. Next, ARGIS Director Eric Wood provided a brief on a detailed review currently going on of ARGIS fee structure. It's anticipated that fee structure analysis is going to take a couple months to complete, and we expect recommendations near the end of the year or early 2022. Eric Wood also led us in a discussion on proposed ARGIS projects that will be seeking funding for the fiscal year 2022 Urban Area Initiative funding. The Management Committee reviewed proposals and gave guidance on project priorities, and a final list of projects will be discussed at a future meeting. And finally, our Chiefs and Sheriff Management Committee will be meeting again on November 3rd at 9:45 a.m. And that is all I have.
Okay, thank you so much, Chief. Are there any comments or questions from members of the PSC? Any members of the public wishing to address us on this item, please raise your hand by hitting *9 or the raised hand icon. Give you a few seconds to do so. Mr. Boyd, did you have a question for the chief? No? I think you're up next. All right, Ms. Sylvia, were there any members of the public wishing to address us on this item?
No, Chair, there are no members of the public to address this item.
Okay, next, you're up. We have a report from the San Diego Fire Chiefs Association. And again, this is to provide that update on fire, things that are happening. Go ahead, Chief.
Okay, this will be very brief. At the last meeting on October 7th, the County Fire Chiefs Association heard a presentation from Health and Human Services Agency and San Diego County Sheriffs about the progress towards their county mobile crisis response team and how that will interact with 911 and paramedics throughout San Diego County. Also, we had a very robust discussion of the staffing challenges that are hitting all of the departments countywide, retirements, attrition, increased hiring, and just a shrinking labor pool, which is no different than most industries. Again, just a discussion about that. And then finally, a good long discussion about what the effects could be on attrition and staffing challenges of possible vaccine mandates that may come down from licensing agencies. And our next meeting will be November 4th and 5th, where we will be having a strategic planning session. And that's my report for today.
Outstanding. Thank you again. I know it's labor shortages, but also to really learning about the opportunities and the benefits of joining the public safety ranks definitely has been a priority, I think, for multiple agencies over the course of the years. But right now, we're heeding the call and making all kinds of opportunities available. So thank you for sharing that. Are there any members of the are there any members of the public that would like to share their comments or thoughts on this item? We are on item number 5. Ms. Sylvia, are there any members that would like to join us?
No, Chair, there are no members of the public for this item.
Thank you so much. Public Safety Committee members, anybody want to speak up on this? All right, Chief, you're off. Now we go moving on to item 6. This is new grant funding, criminal justice research, and Dr. Cindy Burke is up presenting item 6.
Thank you, Mayor Sotelo Solis. For those who don't know on the committee, about 80% of the projects that we do in criminal justice research do come from grant fundings, often when we're collaborating with local law enforcement or community-based organizations. And when we do apply for a grant, we go through to the board, the PSC chair, and then the board chair to get approval. And if the amount of money is over a certain amount, then we do come for approval. We do have a new grant project which falls under that a line that we would need to get approval on, but we'd like to share this information with the Public Safety Committee, so you're aware of all the work that we're doing in the region, often in partnership with your local law enforcement agencies. We know about the increased gun violence we've seen across the region, the efforts that both the city and I believe the county next week are going to be trying to take to deal with ghost guns, for example. Project Safe Neighborhoods is an effort that's been across the country to reduce gun and gang violence nationwide. The funding does go through the U.S. Attorney's Office. In prior years, when we had funding coming to the region, SANDAG served as both the fiscal agent and the research partner, and we successfully competed with the new funding that was available to be the research partner again with FY20 funding that came through. The amount that we'll be adding to the OWP is just under $34,000. It's a short 1-year project, but we will be compiling additional information in partnership with our local law enforcement agencies regarding gun crime arrests, calls for service, as well as other potential information that we can get regarding arrests for and use of firearms across the region. We would be sharing this information both publicly as well as with local law enforcement to help guide the efforts that include prevention, intervention with our collaborative partners. So we're excited to be able to be part of Project Safe Neighborhoods again, and to hopefully look at and compile regional data that is not available elsewhere at this point in time. That's the item. And I'm happy to answer any questions about it if anybody has any.
Okay, we'll go to our Public Safety Committee members regarding this evaluation. Any questions? Well, we are full of questions today. I like this. All right. Are there any members of the public that would like to address us on this item? Ms. Sylvia.
Thank you, Chair. There are no comments from the members of the public for this item.
Outstanding. Okay, thank you again, Dr. Burke. It's great to have these presentations again, just recognizing that, when things get added to the program budget, it's not done unilaterally, and we want to definitely keep our committee members informed. Okay, we now move on to item 7, and leading us on this is Alex Morgan, and this is the geospatial analysis of Naloxone deployments. All right, let's do this. I think, Alex, you're up.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Morgan. I'm with the San Diego Law Enforcement Coordination Center. Today, I'm going to go over just kind of the geospatial analysis of naloxone deployments within the county and the data we receive from multiple agencies, along with the background. I'm a geospatial analyst here at the SDLECC for about 2.5 years. And along with the background, we'll cover the data we receive. I'll show you some examples of the products using a sample data set, and then we'll kind of cover future work a little bit. And I'm not sure how to change slides since you have control. Oh, there we go. Thanks. So just to give a quick background, this is a quarterly product that we put out to our local partners, law enforcement, fire department, any part of the participating agencies. They send us the data, we process it, and then once we complete the products, we will send it back. And this had started in 2017 with the EMS industry. And just to clarify, when I say the EMS industry, I mean AMR. And then the product was designed to point out potential hotspots and areas of possible increased fentanyl exposure for the employees, safety of the employees, both situational awareness and the safety of employees, to assist with addressing the opioid crisis within the county. Let's see. So to give a background on the data itself represents naloxone deployments for suspected opioid overdoses. The initial data in the beginning, when this was started, included AMR, San Diego County Sheriff's Department, and San Diego Fire Rescue. Since then, it has now increased to multiple law enforcement agencies that I've listed here at the bottom. This was recently, so we'll have AMR, San Diego Fire Rescue, Sheriff's, Chula Vista PD, La Mesa PD, and Oceanside PD as well. So the data that I'm going to cover today in this product here, this is 2021 Q1. It is limited. It includes only AMR and San Diego Sheriffs. Usually, starting from 2017, it would have included San Diego Fire as well. So I just wanted to point that out. So the hexagons or hex bins in this product represent 960 acres each. And the time frame, to clarify, Q1 is January through March. And you can see there was a total of 360 naloxone deployments within this quarter, and 96 of those addresses were responded to more than once. And then the most deployment locations within any single grid area is 28. So if we look at the legend, you can see the darker areas are between 16 and 28. So that would be the Chula Vista area, as well as the El Cajon, and downtown San Diego is 11 to 15. The chart to the bottom left will show you incident date count by month and day of month. So for example, February 1st, there was between 10 and 13 deployments. So with that, to highlight the El Cajon and Chula Vista areas, I want to go to the next slide for the Q2. And you can see kind of the change. So the total naloxone deployments for Q2 is 323, but although there was a decrease in the total number of deployments, you can see that the heat map shows the change in high impact areas over time. So you could see the Chula Vista, there was more activity, as well as El Cajon, downtown San Diego, and near the border. And again, this is a subset of the data we would typically include in the final product. And we can go slide. I wanted to point out that our numbers for these products as well. So we provide a visual representation of historical data, like over the previous quarter, rather than real time. But to give you a brief look back into time, from 2019, we had the total naloxone deployment for that year was 1,737. And for quarter one and quarter two for 2021 thus far, we are at 1,766 naloxone deployment.
Alex?
And then, yes.
Oh, it said my internet connection is unstable. I was like, I couldn't hear. You were probably perfect. I couldn't hear you because my internet was unstable. Keep going.
Oh,
You're doing great. You're doing great.
Okay. And in 2020, the total deployments were 2,694. So that was an increase from the 1,737 in 2019. So since we're only halfway through 2021, and this is a subset of the data, that it's likely it will continue to increase when we have the full year. So this is a historical view rather than real time, which you might get from a product such as the Overdose Detection Mapping Application Program, also known as ODMAP. This would allow for a more proactive approach, providing real-time information so you can identify spikes in opioid-related overdoses. And just to give a quick background on that, it's currently used by over 3,000 law enforcement, fire, and EMS agencies in all 50 states, including Los Angeles Fire. And HIDA is supporting the effort towards a pilot implementation here, and with the long-term goal of countywide implementation. And let's see. Oh, sorry. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I think that wraps up what I had to say. It was just a brief overview of the maps and the naloxone deployment analysis that we do here, but please feel free to email me. My contact information is on the slide, or ask questions now.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Morgan. Appreciate that. Do we have, well, if there are any members of the public, please hit *9 or raise your hand so we can address any of the questions you may have. And we do have questions from members of the committee. We'll start off with Mr. Goebel. Kick us off.
Thank you, Chair. This is great information. It has a lot of value. And so I'm glad to have that to send to our city management. These are lives saved. And that's a first point is, boy, it's been a tough year, tough 18 months for law enforcement and the media. And this is the other side of the story. This is, as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story, that they are also out there saving lives every day. And every administration of naloxone is likely a life saved. So that helps that. In El Cajon, we're not on that list of participating, so I need to look into why. We administered naloxone 197 times in 180 days. So we know we have an issue out in the city, and what this does is it helps, I think, tell the county where resources for addressing opioid use can be steered, certainly to hotspots. And so that's got that value as well. So I appreciate this information. As far as the real-time application, ODMAP, is that just another piece of software that is burdening law enforcement reporting, or is it something that could be easily integrated?
It is something that can be easily integrated. The way to set up with the agencies and the agreement with the individual agencies, it's supposed to pull from what they're already reporting, rather than add something else that they have to fill out or a form they have to fill out.
So it sounds like you're saying we just kind of need to flip a switch or subscribe or something, and we could do this, but only if the agency is participating.
Yes, so the agency would have to participate with the setup of ODMAPs, and they would have to agree to implement that into their existing system. And then the data would be pulled from their system and into ODMAP. So that's why it's considered real time. It's more up to date rather than I reach out to the agencies to get the quarterly information. This would be automatically updated.
Sounds good. So as a policymaker, I think that's valuable information for where money gets allocated. As a member of the public, I think it's a great story. The more, sadly, the more numbers we see on this, the good side is the more lives we save. And I think that's a good story for the public as well. So I like to see as many good stories as I can in this area. Lives saved is what that is. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Great questions, Mr. Goebel. That's a very impressive number, that the fact that you guys had to deploy so many calls for service in El Cajon. So, wow, that's eye-opening. Vice Chair Campillo.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate the report, Ms. Morgan. Based on this, based on data we've seen previously among the arrestee population, opioid positivity rates are dropping for women. I think it's at the 6%, but it's stagnated in men at 11%. And I think that this geospatial analysis really, as Councilmember Goebel pointed out, is really helpful to policymakers. And one of the things that I think about with this issue, 7 years ago, my brother passed away from an accidental opioid overdose. So I know that this is really important to families like mine and goes a long way in saving lives. First of all, what efforts are there being made to partner with agencies to just make sure all first responders in our county have access to naloxone? It's easier to say Narcan. I like to just say Narcan, but working with other agencies to make sure everyone has it.
So as far as the LACC product goes, we usually reach out to our partners that we have contacts with to see if they're interested in participating. Each individual one, if we have a contact at that location. And then if they are interested in participating, then we'll start requesting the data every quarter and include it in the product. And then we'll get that out to them as well. So right now it's reaching out individually to each law enforcement agency.
Okay. In terms of an idea that just came to my mind is how there's really a widespread effort and lots of grant funding for putting defibrillation machines in all sorts of places, in businesses. And I know that based on the geospatial data, we're seeing where the overdoses are occurring and where deaths are occurring from this. Is there any thought of how we might deploy, maybe, well, I don't know if it's too expensive or if the dosage of the Narcan goes bad, if it's sitting there for a long time, or what needs to be protected. But is there some way to maybe make it more readily available by partnering it with other sort of medical device deployment, like a defibrillation machine? I'm just thinking that, it's not always the case that an EMT can show up in a certain amount of time. But, in case, I'm just trying to think creatively. Are there other ways that we're trying to partner multiple medical deployments together with Narcan and naloxone deployment?
Well, I don't think that question would be best directed at me within my realm and my role with the product, and that we get the product out to partners so then they can kind of make those decisions and work together for their situational awareness, determine where the hot spots are. But I don't think I would be the best one to answer that one for you.
Understood. I think I saw Councilmember Goebel raise his hand after I made that point. I'm not sure, maybe he has. How are you doing, Councilmember?
Good. Thank you, Mr. Campillo. I carry Narcan on my truck now. I took a half-hour online training through anewpath.org. It's available to any member of the public. This expires in October 2023. It's free. I've already used it once on somebody who was overdosing, and he woke up and ran off. So Institute of Public Strategies is a county contracted organization, Institute of Public Strategies. And they do these seminars. I think they just had one with the DA's office down in South Bay. And it was a wonderful community thing because parents need to have this too.
Yep.
You don't know who your teen goes to a party with, and you don't know what happens, or vice versa, or in your neighborhood. And parents should have this if they have teens. So thank you for raising the awareness.
No, thank you for that, council member. That's really helpful. And my staff and I are going to do some research based on the, you said newpath.org and Institute of Public Strategies. We're going to go look into that. And I really just appreciate Ms. Morgan for bringing this forward today so we could learn about this and just get our mental creativity going on how we can help people based on this data. So with that, Mayor Sotelo Solis, I have no further questions or comments, but thank you very much to staff for the presentation.
Well, I think you brought up a really great point, just thinking creatively on how to deploy it. And I think the defibrillator idea is amazing. Maybe that's a possible piece of legislation that you can provide, our legislative delegation. The more opportunity and people that have access to it. Again, you have to have the training, and knowing what's out there and how to use it properly. But most of the time, the defibrillators are in spots that people within the surrounding areas, workplaces know how to use it. So great idea, Vice Chair. Chief Voigt.
Yeah, hi, I just want to make a couple of comments. I think that the creative ideas are great. One thing to remember though, is that you have to have a person there to deploy it. And again, the training is a part of it as well. So there are programs right now where people can get the Narcan and have it available. And I also wanted to mention one other one that has been mentioned previously, and that is first responders are able to leave Narcan behind in homes and with family members and friends of people who have that potential. So, getting it out into the public's hands where they can use it where it's effective is important. I'm not so sure about leaving it in places like where cardiac monitors might be because of some of the logistic challenges, but it's certainly worth looking at that and kind of and thinking that through. And I think the agency to contact about that is County Emergency Medical Services and the County Public Health Officer. And I know that law enforcement and fire and EMS would certainly be partners in whatever works out to be some good strategies.
I think those are really good points, Chief. We want to make sure everybody is equipped with the tools, but also knowing how to use said tools, and also to liability wise. I mean, what is the we have a bunch of lawyers also too who double as public safety. Right, Mr. Campillo, with the as he smiles. Yeah.
Do we want the meeting to run over time while I'm talking about liability? I don't think so.
I love it. All right, Mr. Perella, did you have a thought on this as well? No. Okay. Well, Alex, the question that I had for you is really looking at, I know El Cajon mentioned that they didn't have their participation in the group, but I'd like to know who haven't you received in addition to those who've been self-identified? Is there groups that you would want to encourage to be part of this geospatial mapping?
Yes. Actually, I have my Deputy Director Roy Frank here with me, and I think he would like to jump in here as well.
Great.
Yeah, I'd like to jump. Thank you, everybody, and I'd like to jump in as well. And yes, so what we're doing is we're focusing on the law enforcement agencies right now, and most of those agencies have been contacted, and they're all looking into possibly sharing with us and assisting with us, El Cajon included, which is great. So the more data that we have, the better it is. There's no question about that. And then, of course, we've talked to fire as well, and discussing this with EMS and those types of things. I think having as much data as possible is going to be that much more beneficial to everybody. Having said that, the one thing that I do know is that when we started this was the best practice that we could come up with. What I do believe, though, is the OD map is really the future for everybody out there. I think it's, again, it's live. It's something that we can look at daily versus what we're doing quarterly. So at the time, ours was absolutely outstanding. I think it was really making a difference. But I think we have better tools now. This can still continue to help those agencies, though, so they could evaluate by agency as well.
Great. I think that's really important, you know, really sharing that with our ones at our partners that are on this virtual dais, but even members who will go back to their individual agencies and encourage that participation. Do you happen to know if there's any chance that this information will ever go public, you know, or publicly available?
Yeah, so what we're focusing on right now is addressing the agencies out there, the emergency responders at the moment. Some of the information obviously is information that we have to be careful with because we do not put what we call PII. We do not list people's names and those types of things in it. It's pretty generic based off of location, and that's it, because it's important for us that this is used for saving lives versus enforcement. And we're focusing on that. So it is something that could be looked at in the future, I think, but right now we're focusing on addressing the issues with the emergency responders.
Great. And I know we hold ARGIS very near and dear to our heart, and the information that is collected there, would that be of service to this type of mapping?
Absolutely. And we've spoken with ARGIS as well in regards to this too. And the director there's talked to us about actually assisting us with getting the message out.
Great. Well, we appreciate that. And again, all the options and opportunities we have, want to share the data. Also too, I appreciate that confidentiality aspect, because we want to have all that data, but we want to keep people's information private. I appreciate all that. Are there any other questions for members of the day? Thank you for coming in, for taking a knee and coming in and talking to the team here. Appreciate you. Are there any last comments you'd like to make, either yourself or Alex?
No, I think I am good. Thank you for your time. Thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Absolutely, and thank you so much.
Yeah, well, I too want to share that I did receive that 30-minute tutorial training at the presentation that the DA's office had here in National City. So I too have the tools to deploy the nasal spray if needed. But again, it's one of those tools in the toolbox that if you have a need for, you should be able to deploy. So thank you again, Alex. And before we go, I'll let you guys go. If there are any members of the public wishing to address us on this item, please hit *9. Raise your hand on the Zoom toolbar. Ms. Sylvia, are there any members of the public wishing to address us on this item?
Yes, Chair. Tim Balash.
Okay. 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you once again for having this. I attended a Supervisor Desmond meeting this week, I believe with the parks and safety people. And I just wanted to mention, considering for those defibrillators, it came up in the unincorporated areas of the county, they maybe could use some funding help if you're going to be looking at those supplies. So I just wanted to mention that, and thank you again for paying attention to these topics.
Thank you again. We appreciate you. Any other members of the public wishing to address us? Please feel free to let them.
No, Chair, that concludes, apologies, that concludes members of the public comments.
Okay, great. Are there any members of the Public Safety Committee that would like to ask any additional questions? And I believe there may be one more person, Mr. Wood, Eric Wood, that would like to address us on this item? No? Okay. All right, seeing no other members of the public, thank you again for the presentation from the San Diego County Law Enforcement Coordination Center. This is all very, very important, and all elements that we will take back to our respective jurisdictions. So thank you again. Have a great rest of the day. We go on to item 8, and this is the Elder Abuse Prevention and Prosecution. Scott Perello from the San Diego County District Attorney's Office will be sharing his thoughts and presenting on this item.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me here. My name is Scott Perello. I'm a Deputy District Attorney I have been a prosecutor in San Diego for 15 years, and I'm the new head of elder abuse. New since 2018. Many of you probably met and worked with my former mentor, Paul Greenwood, the English Deputy District Attorney, who I know made an impression on many. But since 2018, I've been heading up our elder abuse unit. So I am here. Cindy asked me to come and give an overview of some recent developments in what we're doing to prevent and combat elder abuse. So it's my pleasure to take some time and highlight some things. In our office, we prosecute all kinds of elder abuse, physical, financial, sexual, neglect. We also, our elder abuse unit will take any crime that occurs in the county where the victim is over 65 years old. That's the age that the legislature has defined as an elder. I wanted to note there has been some confusion in the last year because that age is changing for adult protective services. Assembly Bill 695 was passed just this past year, and that is going to change the age to be eligible for adult protective services, the services they provide for 60 years and older. But the penal code has not changed. And so there is that gap in 5 years that we should all keep in mind. And there has been some confusion when that law passed among some of our law enforcement partners. So I wanted to start by talking about the San Diego Elder and Dependent Adult Abuse Blueprint. Many of you might remember. And again, I don't think I'm controlling this PowerPoint, right? We go to the next slide there. Thank you very much. Slide number 3, please. So many of you might remember this was one of the first initiatives when Summer Stephan became the DA back in 2018. We brought together all the county stakeholders, including all the law enforcement agencies, Health and Human Services, and we came up with this comprehensive elder and dependent adult abuse blueprint. That has really something that our county should be proud of. That has really become the model to what it does is it puts into one place the best practices for investigating and prosecuting elder abuse, on how different agencies should be communicating with each other. And in fact, the impact that blueprint had statewide was tremendous. Last year, the state Senate passed SB 338, which required local police agencies around the state that when they revise any of their policies and procedure manuals, that they must update the policies for elder abuse. And the statute itself says that the San Diego blueprint should be a model. And so the San Diego District Attorney's Office did participate with the POST group. And in the last year, we worked on producing, it was just released in the last week, a 30-page POST guidelines for elder and dependent adult abuse related to that statute being passed, which was called the Senior and Disability Justice Act. So that's something that we can continue to be proud of in San Diego. And if anyone has any questions about what's in that blueprint, feel free to reach out to me directly. The next thing I wanted to talk about, which came out of that blueprint and this initiative of the gathering of all the stakeholders in town in 2018, is something called the Elder Protection Council, or the EPC. If we could go to the next slide. And that's just the cover. Next slide, please. So this is established in 2018 following the release of the blueprint. And what it was meant to do was actually to model off of the meth strike force. That was the model. We know how successful the meth strike force had been in San Diego. And so the thought that Summer and the chiefs had at the time was, maybe if we brought together a council within the elder abuse community, that we could impact the community the same way the meth strike force has. And so the idea was to bring together county, state, and federal prosecutors and law enforcement, combined with Health and Human Services, mostly from Aging and Independent Services and Adult Protective Services. But we have representation from every county agency that touches upon elders, such as the public guardian, public conservator, the ombudsman. And then we also have the private sector. We have all these professionals, lawyers, real estate brokers, people within the healthcare industry. And it's become an amazing group. We get together 3 or 4 times a year and usually have a meeting where we've been getting over 100 attendees. And it's really turned into this tremendous networking organization. And if you go to the next slide, please. The mission overall was to reduce incidents of elder abuse through prevention, education, and prosecution. And the real vision is to utilize this amazing network. I mean, the idea is to have every professional in San Diego that just touches in the area of elder abuse to come together so that we're all learning together about the latest resources and programming. And then we want to develop an action plan on how we can deploy the appropriate resources to assist elders in crisis, and then work to hold people accountable. If you go to the next slide, it shows just some of the topics we've covered in the last 2 years to this group. And from each of these topics, there have been kind of ad hoc committee work where there's been action items developed, and really it's been just tremendous how we've put things into action on combating unlicensed care facilities that the city attorney's office in San Diego has really become a great leader in what they're doing in that area. The scams that I'm going to talk about next, elder shelters we've talked about, seniors in poverty and elder homelessness issues. We were really proud to learn in our last session about a new certification that's happening nationally for emergency rooms. And I believe every emergency room in San Diego is now certified in this accreditation with the help of the West Center. They've been helping to get the local emergency departments have this geriatric accreditation. And then we also at each session have a community spotlight feature where some organization that is working in the county can come and present to the rest of the group what they're doing. So again, if you have anyone on any of your staffs that you would like to be in this organization, we do have an email listserv that sends out invitations to each of our sessions. So again, please contact me directly if you'd like me to add someone specific on your staff. The next meeting is scheduled for December 16th. Finally, I wanted to talk about elder scams. If you go to the next slide, please. You know, wherever I go in the community, and I've spent a lot of my time, kind of the model for us is we spend a lot of time working in the courts and prosecuting cases, but we also do tons of prevention and education in the community. And when I go out into the community to senior centers, to assisted living, to churches and synagogues, to book clubs, all people want to talk about are the scams. And so we are so proud. You may have heard some publicity on this just within the last 2 months, but in 2021, we have launched the San Diego Elder Justice Task Force, which is an unprecedented collaboration from between the FBI and the District Attorney's Office, the Department of Justice, and the U.S. Attorney's Office. And we are really just getting started with a template that we feel could be a model for the future here in San Diego and around the country. The first case that we did involved a granny scam, which is where the elder victim gets a phone call from someone posing as their grandchild saying that they've been in a horrible accident in Tijuana or some other country, and they're in jail and they've hurt someone and they need bail money. Well, these victims were told that a bail agent was going to come to their door and pick up money. And of course, the elders were succumbed to this scam and gave this person that came to their door cash. And we realized that we had 9 victims in our county. Once we connected the dots, all these different reports were made to different police agencies in town. We had a successful prosecution of that courier that was picking up the money, But then the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office took it to another level. And there was just a press conference last month announcing an unprecedented federal indictment of 8 defendants on a RICO indictment, the same statute that was used to bring down famously John Gotti and the mafia out of New York years ago. We think it was maybe the first time it's ever been used in an elder fraud case. So that case was kind of the linchpin, but really what we're doing is developing an understanding in San Diego where we are doing things that no one else in the country is doing because of this collaboration, which is unprecedented between the FBI and our office. In addition, the FBI had this amazing idea to go to the LECC, and I'm so proud to see them presenting before me, but that is also a first in its country Elder Fraud Coordination Center. And so typically what has happened with these cases, that there's so many scams that are being reported, but no one is working to connect the dots. And so what we're trying to do now is to have every law enforcement agency in the county, as well as Adult Protective Service, submit all their reports to the LECC so that they could help us connect the dots. And what we've realized, kind of the big epiphany that we had in investigating these cases, is that for every smaller victim in San Diego that's maybe lost $12,000 or $30,000, that those scams connect nationally and turn into cases with millions of dollars in losses. And where we previously thought that the bad guys, you read these reports and you just say, oh, look, they're sending their money. It must be going overseas to Nigeria or to Asia or to the Caribbean. What we've come to learn is that there's actually $1 billion economy of money launderers that are operating within the United States. And so these are perpetrators that we can go after. So the staggering reality on these scams, and we've been studying locally how bad of a problem we think it is. And we do believe that it's shocking to hear that we believe there's up to 100 cases a week, 100 different victims in San Diego falling victim to this a week. And we believe that the number of losses is, we believe a low number would be $20 million a year for San Diego victims. So the good news is that through the work we've been doing now for the last 2 to 3 years on this, that we know how to stop this. The bad news is the staggering reality of the undertaking that it would actually be to stop it, which is going to take resources locally and nationally that are so scarce. These cases, to investigate them, are very labor intensive. They require tons of search warrants and going after the layers and layers of these criminal syndicates and the technology that they're using to prey on our elders. And so we're hoping that the LECC coordination, that the information that they're gathering now from us feeding all these cases into their databases helps us kind of document exactly what's happening within our county, and so that we could start working together on how to report these cases consistently, how to make sure that there's a support system in place for the victims who right now are getting very little in the way of support. And hopefully we could demonstrate enough that we could get these critically scarce resources throughout the county devoted to the efforts of the Elder Justice Task Force, which currently has full-time district attorney investigators and full-time FBI agents and staff working on it, and an affiliate model right now where most every law enforcement agency in town is at least have a contact person within our network that's helping us to build this out. So it's heartbreaking to hear how many victims there are, but it's very encouraging that we've even come this far, because in the rest of the country, sadly, the answer that most of the victims of these crimes still get when they walk into a police station is, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. And so we're striving to figure out what can we do, and our victims, there are such vulnerable victims, deserve better, and we're working to stop this. So thank you so much for having me and just hearing a little bit about some of the exciting things that are happening in the DA's office and within the law enforcement community as it relates to elder abuse.
Thank you so much, Scott, for your presentation. I think as we move forward and really recognize that we continue to have a growing aging population, we need to recognize what those signs are. And I'm glad you shared about, I think you called it the blueprint for elder abuse. I think anytime we can have packets of information that can be shared readily, we have, community service hours, whether they be cleanups or even as elected officials, we have community coffee hours. This type of information is always extremely important. So anytime you can send 5 little pamphlets to each of the offices, I think it's great. One, to keep in contact with each of the members in the municipalities, but also being able to get that information out through various, circuits, whatever we can do. And I know the City of National City would love to receive, and take some of those pamphlets off your hands. Oh, there it is. It looks like it's also too available online at www.sdcda.org, and you can click on Elder Abuse Blueprint PDF. So for those that want to receive that electronically, one of the questions that I have is, because we have such a culturally diverse county here in San Diego, I'm curious, how do you recognize, COVID-19 has really shed the light on many of the health disparities, as well as, the health impact, mental health impacts, lack of resources and just trust in the system. So my question to you is, how is the DA's office working to make sure that the work is sensitive to the diversity of various needs within those diverse communities, and how are they making the connection?
It's a great question, and we do a lot of outreach, and I'm open. I'm a direct line to you if you know of an opportunity in your community. You are right, and the number one risk factor overall for all types of elder abuse is isolation, and that is especially inherent with COVID. But it's also within the immigrant communities within San Diego, and there is a cultural, there's cultural barriers to reporting elder abuse, and that is a barrier and a dynamic of elder abuse that is across the board. The research supports that we're only hearing about 1 in 25 cases of elder abuse. That's nationally researched and supported, and you can imagine within our immigrant communities that it's probably greater because people are terrified. Especially, we have certain populations within San Diego that come from countries where you don't trust the police when you call the other end. So, for example, just last year, it's just striking me that you said that I volunteered to an invitation to go on Chaldean radio, and I went out to East County and I did a spot for Chaldean radio, and part of it is just showing us and getting the message out that we need people to feel safe in reporting this. Adult Protective Services is really such an incredible agency, just on the social work end, and just to tell people that they're not calling 911 necessarily, where they're going to be in the criminal justice system, but if they're just concerned for a neighbor or a relative, all they have to do is call. They could be anonymous and call the Adult Protective Services hotline, and that has the amount of referrals that APS is getting in San Diego and nationally is going up exponentially. They did a presentation for us recently. They're up to 15,000 referrals in the last year, and it's just remarkable number compared to it's almost doubled, I think, since maybe 5 years ago. So there's a lot more awareness, and there's also a lot more referrals. And as you mentioned, the population is going to be doubling in the next 15 years of age 65 and older. So we kind of all have to buckle our seatbelts, because, I joke with people that just in my own career at the DA's office, by the time I'm done, I'm probably going to have a whole division under me of DAs, because our client pool is going to be, when police respond to calls, most of the people they're responding to are going to be over 65, not young people. That's just a demographic shift that's going to happen. So I'm happy to help you think and brainstorm on how we do outreach to those specific communities around the county. And there's an open door here for that. And that's part of what Summer wants us to be doing. So please, let's be in touch.
And if there are any funds or grants that you provide to help us offset any of those costs, because anytime we do these things, we know there is some cost, even if it's just to bring coffee or donuts or staff's time, that always helps as well, especially when we're really wanting to make that change. I do have two members of the committee that would like to address us. Supervisor Anderson, followed by Vice Mayor Campillo, or Vice Chair Campillo. Well, I'm already upgrading you there. No.
You know what? Golly, come on.
You're on.
Oh,
can hear you.
You know what? I didn't mean to be on, so I apologize if I put my hand up.
Oh, no worries. No worries there, Supervisor. Okay, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Sotelo Solis. Thank you very much, Scott, for the presentation and the great work you do at the DA's office. I just, no questions for you. Just wanted to flag the item that came to my mind and my staff's mind about the fact that we seem to see a lot of elder abuse and especially violence on public transit. I know that earlier this year we saw a senior citizen Asian American woman attacked on the trolley, and so I'm sure this is part of your plan or part of what's being looked into. But it seems like a lot of times folks who are in transit are the ones who experience this a lot, and so just wanted to flag that for you, especially since in my district the green line trolley line runs through, and so just always keeping that in the forefront of my mind as we think about public safety and reducing both elder abuse and hate crimes all at one time. Just wanted to flag that and make sure that remains a priority, and I'm sure it is. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All great points. If you see something, say something, and knowing where. I think Vice Chair brings up a great point. I don't know if there's any information that is also to provide it to MTS. As a Vice Chair there, I think it's also right now we're promoting the Pronto card or the Pronto card. Going from the Compass to the Pronto, and last month we had free rides. It may be just another PSA. I don't know if there's a month, Elder Abuse Awareness Month. It may be good just to use that literal vehicle, literal and physical, theoretical to share that information at each of our stops. Great idea. Okay. With that, any members of the public wishing to address us on this item, please hit *9, raise your hand virtually on the Zoom toolbar. This is your chance. All right. Ms. Sylvia, anyone wishing to address us?
No, Chair, there are no members of the public to address this item.
Thank you so much, Clerk. We did have those questions from members of the Public Safety Committee. Any additional questions? Seeing none, Scott, any last message you want to send to us?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, and I did see that he just posted World Elder Abuse Awareness Month, or Day, is June 15th. And it's also the month of June is recognized as the Elder Abuse Awareness Month. Again, all really bits of important information that we can all take back to our respective jurisdictions. So I want to thank everyone for joining us on this item. Again, that was for information only. With that, our next Public Safety Committee meeting is scheduled for, currently scheduled for Friday, November 12th at 1 p.m. Please note that this meeting will be held the second Friday of the month due to the holiday schedule. So keep ready to roll. Stay safe out there. Enjoy your Friday. It is a gorgeous day, but have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you. Meeting.